Hello YouTube, this is Nite of Misfortune with Empire Civilization, a channel devoted solely to civilization games. Today we continue looking at Civilization 5 and with the series that I call Let's Take a Look at Civilization 5. This is episode 3 and today we're going to be taking a look at mechanics of yields and resources slash tiles. So this can be a little bit confusing at first, but hopefully throughout the course of this video you will be able to know where the yields come from. In the previous video we have taken a look at the HUD and the overlays. I don't know why I gave myself a team, by the way. That's just there for some reason. Um, Yeah, so if you don't have the yield icons turned on, I would highly recommend you to turn them on because they will help you throughout this video, as well as the resource icons. Those will help you quite a bit as well. So once again, when you start off a game of Civilization 5, you will have a settler and a warrior. What you will need to do, probably one of your most important decisions throughout the game, is decide the starting tile, or tile, I should call them hexes because they're not tiles, they're hexes. The starting hex of your first city. To be able to make this decision, you need to know how founding a city works. So, a city will have, when it is founded, no matter what, 2 apples and 1 hammer, no matter what. Then, if you have, say, 2 hammers or 2 gold, those will be counted, but they will not be added on top of that. So for example, this tile, which I am right now, it has 2 hammers, so that means when I found a city, I will have 2 apples, which a starting city always has. That is enough to sustain 1 population, by the way, but we'll talk about that later. Um, and it will have 2 hammers, not 3 hammers, but 2 hammers. It will at least have 1, but since this is a 2, it will have 2. If I move to the left 1, I will have 2 apples, the minimum, not 3, 1 hammer, because that's the minimum, and 2 gold. So that is basically the basic thing you need to know about founding a city. So what you usually want to do is found a city on a hill. That is overall a really good idea because first of all it gives you a defensive bonus. Second of all, you will have an additional hammer for your early production, which is amazing. So where I'm at is pretty good, and I'm by a mountain. If you don't know what a mountain means yet, that's okay, but a mountain is good in the beginning. Well, not in the beginning, but in the later stages, a mountain can have a really good bonus as well. You can also found your city on a resource, and we will talk about resources later, but if you have the technology and your city is on that resource, you will automatically gain that resource, which I did not know for a while until I learned that. You will get the resource if you found a city on top of it. So that could be a very free improvement for you. And that is basically it for how a city is founded. So let's found a city here. We have Copenhagen, and as you can see, we have gained 2 apples and 2 hammers in the starting position. I did not want to move because I would consume a turn and I would probably be behind after that. And the tile where I was at is perfectly fine. I do not need the silk yet. So in the previous video, we have talked about what hammers, a little bit about apples and gold. So your city is only able to work tiles that is in its border. So you can see this border right here. And this border is expanded with the use of culture. Culture typically is not something you get from a tile, although certain things like great people improvements or natural wonders are able to give you culture from tiles. However, for the most part, you will not get culture from tiles. You get culture from your buildings and the great people, things like that. As you can see, we have +1 culture, which comes from the palace. And once again, you can hover over any unit or building and you will get information about that. So we can see the palace. You always start with the palace in your city, and that basically signifies your capital. You get +1 culture, plus 2.5 defense, +3 gold, +3 science, +3 production, and also for Brave New World they have added a great works of art or artifact slot. Um, yeah, and that's basically a very nice thing to take a look at, so you know where all of these numbers come from. Next thing that is very important and often overlooked by most players, which kind of attributed to laziness, I guess, not wanting to manage this. But it's very important for you to understand that you have complete control of the tiles that is worked by your city. So, to see which tiles are worked by your city, you go right here, Citizen Management, click on this little plus or just on the tab, whatever, and you are now able to see those black circles, and green means that tile is being worked by the city. So as we can see right now, you are working the city tile and one additional tile around your city. So you will always be working the tile that is in your city. The number of tiles that you can work around you, I'm sorry, I'm yawning, I don't know why. Um, number of tiles you can work around your city is determined by your population. As you can see right here, we have one citizen. We can also return here and see this one right here. And this little 5, the green 5 means how many turns until that grows into 2. So right now we have one citizen, which means we can work one tile around us. And we can change it ourselves, which I recommend always to do. Change it to say, I want to have a little bit more production, and I'm okay with having one less apple here. And you just click on it, and it will lock. Pretty important thing, it will lock. So when you change a default, it will not change it. So you have to remember to unclick it, and then for the computer to fill it in itself, and then when you change it, it will change that accordingly. You have to click on this little red person. If you do not figure out, that red person means that unused citizen. Later on, you will be also able to fill in your citizens into buildings, where they will get an additional bonus as well. But I'm not sure if I will be able to demonstrate that this video, but you know, if you know the general idea of that, you should be okay. So once again, you can switch the default yourself, or you can put choose a focus. So for example, a food focus will select tiles that will make your city grow fast, and that's something I did not talk about yet. Probably I should talk about that first. So what food impacts is your city size and how fast it grows. What production impacts is obviously how fast you produce things, and what gold impacts, we're just going down that list on the left. What gold impacts is obviously how much gold you're getting per turn. What science impacts is how fast you research things. What faith impacts is how many faith points you have towards religion and pantheons. Tourism, still figuring this thing out because Brave New World just came out, but tourism impacts your basic influence over other civilizations, and when your tourism reaches a higher number than all of the cultures of your opponents, you basically win a culture victory. And what culture impacts is your defense against tourism, since tourism has to surpass an amount of culture, but it also impacts the your borders, obviously, and it also allows you to unlock policies, social policies, and we'll take a look at that later. Social policies are very important, and you can see how far you are towards a social policy right here. So 16 turns, obviously, with +1 produced by cities, and that +1 we can see again right here. You can click on this, and you will see social policy menu. Once again, we'll talk about this later, but I just wanted to show you that. And um, so food, you get 2 base, 2 eaten by citizens, because it takes 2 apples to sustain each point of population. So right now it's 1. 1 times 2 is obviously 2. My math skills are amazing, I know, thank you. So you're only getting 2 points towards expansion. Right here we can see the progress towards next population growth. So we have a progress of 0 out of 10, and obviously we're getting 2 apples per turn. So we will expand in 5 turns. That's where that 5 comes from. Very important. If we switch our production focus to production, you'll see that it's switched to 1 apple, but now we have 2 additional hammers. Now we have 7 hammers per turn. Production. Production is very, very important. Choose production, and you are able to see the cost of each unit. So for example, for this worker, we need 46 hammers. What that means is that we will need to accumulate 46 hammers, obviously. At the rate of 7 hammers per turn, that will take about 7 turns. Well, 6.5, but since we can't complete a unit in the middle, that will take 7 turns. So that's where production comes from. You can switch to gold focus. You will switch here, obviously, because this is the most gold yielding tile around your city. You can switch to signs, but once again, these last 4 are usually not from tiles, they are from buildings, especially tourism. Tourism is not even from buildings, it's from works of art, great works, whatever. And culture, finally, is how fast, I talked about this already, how fast your border expands. It says right here 10 turns until border growth. You can hover over that, at least I think you can hover. Nope. Well, you can hover over culture, and we'll tell you 1 from buildings is 0 out of 10 towards next border growth, 10 turns. And one more thing to note there is that your city will grow into the tile or tiles highlighted in purple, and unfortunately you cannot pick those. You can influence it by buying a tile. So for example, if you buy this, it's going to pick a different tile, but you can't directly pick the tile. There's also great person focus. Great people are generated by great world wonders, usually. And yeah, I don't think they're generated by anything else. I'm pretty sure they aren't. And that is basically all you can select here. And one more thing, you can avoid growth. Obviously, when a city grows, unhappiness takes over. There's more unhappiness, so we can hover over here to unhappiness. Happiness level is 5, and you get 1 unhappiness generated by population because it's 1 citizen. 3 generated from number of cities. I'm pretty sure it's 3 per city. So we have 4 total happiness. We have 9 total happiness. 9 from difficulty level. That's interesting. Yep, so our total happiness is 5, and that gets counted towards our golden age. Golden age is when you your outputs of all your tiles in the empire that you're working, obviously, produce at least 1 gold, produces 1 extra. Oh, sorry, I can't read. Cities gain plus 25 production, and empire-wide culture is increased by 20%. So a golden age is very important, thus happiness is important, thus City management and citizen management becomes very, very important. We're just going to leave that on default. It's pretty good that the city grows in the beginning. But that, once again, is dependent on your strategy. Let's go back here, and now we are going to talk about tiles. So this is the more in-depth part of this video for those of you who have been perhaps playing for a while, but if you're new, it's very interesting to know this as well. So what I'm going to do here is switch to an Excel file, and I will talk about the terrain features. By the way, if any of this is wrong, which I'm fairly sure it's not, I do apologize. It's been very late when I was typing this up, and it's a lot of numbers. So first of all, terrain. Terrain is basically a tile, obviously. So for example, grassland or hill. And then there are terrain features. Now this concept can be a little bit confusing at first. Um, the terrain feature will override the basic terrain yields. But how I understand it, only if it's not a negative. So for example, Fallout will subtract 3 from each. It won't actually be 3. But a floodplain will be a 2 regardless if it's a plane or something else. So it won't add, positives won't add, it will substitute, but negatives will actually subtract from the terrain, which is kind of weird and it was confusing to me. I thought it was adding at first, but now that I understand it, it makes sense. So there's basically a focus terrain, which I decided to call such because you usually use it for something very specific. So for example, a grassland, you would build a farm on it, which would improve it to 3 apples. We'll talk about that a bit later. And you would use that for growth. And a hill, you would construct a mine, and it would be 3 hammers, and you would use for that. With versatile terrain, you can pretty much, it's either not very good or worse than focused terrain, or you can use things like a plane for either thing, whatever you want. Generally, it's very good to have a versatile terrain. I prefer to have 1 apple or 2 hammers, or 2 apples and 1 hammer, because focused terrains obviously don't produce any of their counterpart yield. So that it just depends on your liking and your strategy. Junk terrain, basically nothing on it. Mountains, obviously, but mountains are not as bad as snow or deserts. You do have things to make them produce things, but it's just harder. So at the beginning, obviously, these tiles are pretty much junk. As you can see from my Civilization game that I've just showed you, there's a mountain and it wasn't producing anything at all. So terrain features. Positive features, I don't know why I call them positive, just pretty much good features. Versatile features are, once again, subtract 1 from hammers but add 1 to apples. Sorry, there I go yawning again. I have no clue what's up with that. Negative features, subtract obviously, only don't add anything. So that's basically terrain, basic terrain. You can pause here and look at these in detail, or you can go onto my Facebook page, Facebook group page, EmpireCivilization. The link is going to be down below, and the link to the download of this file will be there. Improvements is next. This is a bit more confusing, and I apologize if that is the case. Okay, so these are all the improvements or features you can have on top of the tile and on top of the feature. Some features have to be removed in order for something to be built on top of that tile. So for example, a forest has to be cleared for almost anything except a trading post, a railroad, and a road. Which is why, and a lumber mill, of course. Actually, no, I'll take that back. A trading post overrides a forest, but it does not override a jungle. That's why jungles are very, very good because, first of all, with a university, you will get science from it. You can have oh god, it's not a social policy. I think it's a pantheon that gives you culture from jungle, and you can build a jungle obviously gives you two food. You can build a trading post on it, which will give you gold, and you will still have the jungle there, which is very, very good. Very, very good. So keep those jungles, don't cut them down. Um, let's see. So Academy. If there's an asterisk, it is built by a great person, obviously. Um, gives you 8 science. So obviously you need a great person for that, but that's how you get science generation from tiles. Ancient ruins are not really an improvement. It's just there at the start of the game, which you can explore, and they will give you a random bonus. Antiquity sites, something new added to Brave New World. Uh, when you reach archaeology, you will see these sites, and you are able to send an archaeologist there, and eventually they will give you either a artifact, or you will have a choice to construct what is it here? A landmark, which generates 6 culture and 1 extra culture for each era of difference between the construction point and present. Camp does not give you anything. Wait, isn't this barbarian? Anyway, I'm not forgot what this camp means. Oh, duh, I'm retarded. Camp is we'll talk about it later, but it gives you a resource, a specific resource. That's the next tab over resources, and you will see that. Customs house, Citadel is also constructed by a great person who gives you a defense bonus. Customs house, again by a great person, gives you gold. 4 gold, quite nice. Encampment is a barbarian spawn position. You can take those out and gain some gold from it. It's not really an improvement. A farm obviously is built on a grassland, plain, or desert, or on wheat, and it gives you 1 additional food. Fishing boat. Uh, sea tiles are a bit different from land tiles. You cannot improve every sea tile. You can only improve tiles that have a resource on them. So you'll need a fishing boat for that. Fort, defense bonus, not as good as the Citadel, but it's built by a worker, so go figure. Holy Site by great prophet, 6 faith. Landmark, we talked about that. Lumber mill in a forest. If you don't want to cut down a forest, since it does give you 1 hammer, you will gain an additional hammer, and you can reach a 1-2 or a 2-2, I think. Mine, resource and a hill. Talked about that. Offshore platform. All the next 4 are resource related. Railroad and road improve your movement speed. Trading post gives you 1 additional gold. So all of this is again pretty much self-explanatory. It's included in the file on Facebook. The next file over is even more confusing. Look at that. So many numbers. So many numbers. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so camp. Resource. And you use that to get ivory, furs, truffles, and deer. And how these work is basically that is added on top of the improvement. So you will, except for this happiness, just disregard this happiness for now. I will talk about happiness later. So, for example, if you build a farm, you remember that a farm adds a +1 food additional, no matter what. So for wheat, if there's wheat present on the tile, you will get an even 1 additional apple. So that's nice. Likewise, for our camp, you'll get 2 gold and stuff like that. So you can, again, pause and take a look. Oh yeah, and this last row is from trade. Only from trade with city-states can you get porcelain and jewelry. You cannot get those from anything else. So let's talk about this happiness and things like that. First of all, um, luxury resources are used to produce happiness, and remember that happiness is crucial to golden ages, which are always nice, and also if you have too much unhappiness, you will get rebellion. So luxury resources are very important, and it is not, despite what you might think, it is not 4 per luxury resource, for each luxury resource. It is 4 for each type. So for example, if you have 1 gem, you will get 4 happiness. If you have 1 gold, you will get 4 happiness. If you have 2 gold, you will still get 4 happiness, so it does not stack. And you get 4 for each luxury resource. That's just a default set by the game. Um, yeah, so that's basically luxury resources are happiness and money. Strategic resources are usually associated with production, but they are often used to produce units. So for example, iron, horse, uranium, aluminum, and I think that's it. And oil, of course, are used for production of units. So for example, if you have 5 iron, you can only produce 5 iron requiring units. And if you, for some reason, go into negatives, all those units will fight at a um, worse strength, lower strength. I was trying to find a word for it. Sorry. So it's really interesting to take a look at these numbers, and it is very nice that it's pretty much self-explanatory. Oh, and also there's other kind of resources. They don't really give you a bonus for anything. They're pretty much junk resources. The junkiest of them all, I'm sorry, if you see those overlaid pictures, I don't know why they keep on coming back. Um, the worst of them all is bananas, because to get bananas are most likely in jungle. Well, they are in jungle, sorry. You remove the jungle, so you lose a food and you gain a food. Or it might be the other way. Anyway, bananas are generally not very good because they're not luxury resources and you're not able to use the jungle. And I believe marble gives you a 25% bonus to construction of, oh god, pre-classical, I think. Pre-classical, yeah. Alright, natural wonders. The last thing we'll talk about in this episode is natural wonders. And basically, once in a while, you will come across natural wonders which don't just give you a one-time bonus of something, they also give you a bonus if you work them. So, for example, the first one, Karakota. Oh my god, I fucked that up. Kara. Krakatoa? God, I failed today so hard. Anyhow, Krakatoa, if work that, it will give you 5 bonus to science. Just something you could consider. Um, yeah. And the nicest one of those is my personal favorite, Sripada, sorry. It gives you 2 food and 4 um, faith, which is one of my favorite things. So I believe that is all she wrote for looking at this file. Anyway, let's go hop back into the um, game and I'll show you a couple more things. So back to civilization, and I wish I have taken a look at this earlier, but religion is something I didn't talk about. So Parthians. If my mind is not escaping me, yes, there we go. It's helping me here. To the first Parthian, it is 6 faith. So the first person that gets 6 faith will get the first Parthian of his choice. The second person will need 8. The third person will need 10, and so on and so on. So it is very important for you, if you're at least going for religion, or religion is an integral part of your strategy, is to get faith as soon as possible. And that is very interesting because if you get a certain wonder, or I mean natural wonder, if you discover it. Some of them give you a one-time aid bonus to your religion, which is very nice. So if you're playing a duel, that will automatically give you the first pantheon. That is very nice. And then it is 134 points to the possible, I mean, not possible, just a great person, a great prophet. And you also can set your generation points to something to be purchased automatically. So, for example, save for great prophet, or save for, later you will be able to save for cathedrals or something like that. So I hope this has been very, very helpful, or at least somewhat helpful. Um, if you have any questions, please type them in the comments down below, and I will answer those, or someone else will answer those if I get to that late. Um, it is pretty easy once you understand how these tiles work to be able to utilize them in the most efficient way. And once again, I really, really suggest you to manage your um, citizens yourself, because the computer is not the smartest, obviously. So, thank you very much for watching. I think this video has been very, very long so far, even longer than the previous ones. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe if you can, and stick around for future videos. I'm not sure what the next video will be. It will most likely be victory conditions, because that's the next thing you need to know. And once again, Knight of Misfortune signing off with Empire Civilization. Stay tuned.